At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Good morning to you all. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger watching Coffee with Krueger. It is Monday, May 18th, middle of the month. Hey, we had some power outages out there. Now, what you're seeing in Tehama and Glenn County, by the way, the one means about 1,000 people without power, or customers without power. So just kind of give you an idea, those are basically planned power outages from PG&E. Not necessarily planned power outages, though, for Butte County or Plumas County. Plumas County, only about 100 customers are without electricity. Now, there were some outages in Butte County. Also, a few outages in Shasta County yesterday. Those have since then been restored. But no doubt we saw those power outages. Look at this. This is out in Willows. Saw a downed, looks like a tree, but there are also some broken branches as well. This is a downed tree in Tennant. Now, this is actually out in Siskiyou County. Thanks to Barbara Butters, that is, for sending in that photo. By the way, you can share your photos from the free Weather NorCal app. If you don't have the app, just search for Weather NorCal in your app store, and you can share those photos. There is, believe it or not, a frost advisory. Now, the reason being the winds did die down in that area, and temperatures are rather cold in Trinity County, southern Humboldt. And that, of course, as we go into spring planting, right, we want to make sure we don't damage those new plants. All right, let's take a look at our Divine Sky camera. This is overlooking the Sacramento River. You got Mount Shasta in the distance. A couple of clouds kind of hanging out there, just as you can see to the right of Mount Shasta there. But otherwise, plenty of sunshine out there this morning. There are the cold temperatures. So again, the frost advisory, right? Hayfork down to 29 this morning, 31 in Hayfork. Although you can see not as bad for places like Redway at about 43, but there may be a few spots in southern Humboldt, especially some of those low-lying valleys in Humboldt that may be looking at temperatures around or even below freezing. Otherwise, you are above freezing, even in Alturas. But look at Bernie, about 28. Temperatures mid to upper 50s, even around 60 out at the Redding Airport. We got a couple people chiming in this morning here. We have got Jeff Johnson. Good morning, Mike. I hear there's already a couple of spot fires on Corning. No, there's no spread. We don't have any major fires out there. That is certainly the case here. And in fact, let me take a look here. This is coming in from Jackie as well. Good morning from Trinidad. The wind gusts have been wild on the coast. They have been. Definitely have been pretty gusty out there on the coast here. I'm just going to take a look. But, you know, last I checked, even when I was looking yesterday, so many apps. Remember when we first got our phones, we didn't really have like a bunch of apps. Now you can't even find them anymore. Yeah, there's nothing of concern out there right now. But we did see some, I don't really see a whole bunch near Corning. You got the Viola fire. That is on I-5, but that's actually there's no alarm there. So yeah, nothing to be concerned about out there right now. Curtis Brown saying, good morning. We were able to escape. Oops, hold on, let's send that. There you go. Able to escape the PSPS so far. Did have some tree limbs snap off, though. Right? So, yeah, those gusty winds, you were able to avoid that PSPS, but there are a few areas in Tehama County that I do know that are still under that PSPS right now. All right, let's get into your Krueger's Quickcast for your Monday, May 18th. Here's a look at your skeeter meter for this week. It's been bumped up from a 1.5 now to a 2.5. And of course, the Shasta Mosquito and Vector Control has some advice for you. And these are just a few of the many: potted plant saucers and plants, buckets and other containers, trash cans and lids, fountains, bird baths, and ponds. These are all areas you're going to have ponding water that you just need to be aware of and make sure you don't have ponding water, because that is what can really bring up that population of those mosquitoes. Out the door this morning, you've got temperatures mainly in the 40s, although Modoc County in the upper 30s there, and for the valley in the upper 50s at this point. All right, so take a look at the big picture here with our satellite image, and we've got that cold front up to our north. We've got high pressure building in. This is what's going to give us weaker winds and warmer temperatures. Now, the winds were quite strong yesterday. We saw gusts upwards of around 50, even over 50 miles per hour in some cases. Hence the downed trees, hence the broken tree branches and the power outages as a result. and the gusty winds, because we had high fire danger. PG&E had put out some power outages or planned power outages, so in case a power pole did blow down or something happened, that we didn't spark a fire, right? So that's the reason for some of your planned power outages. The good news is we're expecting these winds to eventually die down, but still breezy, gusty at times as we go into tomorrow, but much calmer winds for your Thursday afternoon. Mid-80s for most of us in the valley today, generally in the 70s, 60s and 70s for the mountains. And for the coast, you're talking low to mid-60s today. And for tonight, should drop down to the mid-50s. Maybe a little bit cooler in the valley because the winds may not be as strong, but still breezy nonetheless. I still think even tonight for many of you in the valley, and of course for the mountains, probably not as bad. Now, temperatures are going to be on the increase. We're talking upper 90s. I've got about 100 degrees for Red Bluff. That might be pushing it, but you get the idea. Basically upper 90s by Thursday. That's the peak of the warming trend. After that, temperatures will drop a little bit and then kind of level out, but still well above normal for this time of the year. And that's pretty much the case even for the higher elevations as well. Let's take a look at that fire weather outlook because it's that time of the year, right? We had our first red flag warning of the season this weekend, and we still have that red flag warning until 8 o'clock tonight. Now, one again, I want to stress the winds today will not be as strong as they were yesterday. That doesn't mean we can let our guard down with that fire weather risk. It just means we probably won't see as many downed trees and broken tree branches in the works because the winds won't be quite as strong there. But humidity is going to be low as well, and that's really going to elevate that fire weather risk. So taking a look at the winds over the next several days. So there you can see today, you see how they're just not nearly as strong. I do think they're going to be at some spots that could get in that 30, even 40 mile an hour range, but widespread, I don't think it'll be as bad. Now, you'll notice still pretty gusty along the coast. Now, tomorrow morning, I still think it'll be breezy in the valley, but those winds should die down by tomorrow afternoon, but that's not the case for the coast. Still pretty gusty there as well. And really the trend for breezy winds from the north on the west side of the valley is what I'm expecting here for the next several mornings, but those winds subside by the afternoon. There you can see Thursday morning, a little breezy, right? But not so bad for the afternoon. And then it looks like really by Thursday afternoon, even the coast should see some weaker winds as well. So the fire weather risk isn't terribly high, actually. Now the humidity, very low. You see that? We're down to the single digits. But we look at the overall fire weather risk when you combine temperature, winds, and humidity. You can see we're kind of in that low to moderate category in the valley. And in fact, you'll notice by Tuesday, we see less in the way of yellow, so even more in that low category. Wednesday, mainly low fire weather risk, but then by Thursday is when we expect some of those warmer temperatures, but still in the low to barely that moderate category as well. So the fire weather risk isn't terrible. We certainly have seen worse, but we definitely need to be careful. All right, taking a look at some of the cameras out there. This is once again a live shot from our Divine Sky Cam coming from Divine Restaurant in Redding. And earlier, if we were looking at this camera yesterday, you would see the trees blowing in the wind. So the winds have certainly calmed down this morning, but I do expect them to pick up here through the morning into the afternoon. Let's see here. We've got, Lisa saying, good morning, Mike. Enjoying the cool mornings, even though it will be hot in the afternoons. And of course, she says later this week. It will be hot in the afternoons later in the week. Today, temperatures are going to be generally, in the mid-80s for the valley. Taking a look at Lake Oroville out there this morning. Looks like a little bit of a breeze, kind of keeping those waters a little choppy out there. Main Street Chico on Highway 32. Taking a look at Highway 99 at Neal Road out there in Butte County. Taking out to Crescent City Harbor District. Look at that. You've got clear skies this morning. Absolutely gorgeous out in Crescent City this morning. Taking a look at Bald Hill West, no fog, no clouds above you. We're looking at plenty of sunshine this morning out in the Hoopa Valley. Mount Shasta, there off in the distance, seeing less and less of that snow. That snow is melting fast. Taking a look now at Fort Jones. This is in Scott Valley. Still kind of being shaded in some areas from the mountains, but plenty of sunshine out there this morning. We've got plenty of sunshine this morning out at Lassen Park too. And you see a few patches of snow off in the mountains in the distance, but otherwise snow free. All right, so here's a look at your weather headlines. I do expect gusty winds, high fire danger to start the week. Again, I want to stress the winds, although not as strong as they were yesterday, are still strong enough to keep that elevated fire weather risk. Now, I do expect weaker winds, especially in the afternoon hours for the rest of the week in the valley, but we do have a warming trend close to 100 degrees. Yes, close to 100 degrees by the time we get into your Thursday. Let's get into your deeper dive forecast, and there you can see the satellite image. Now, high pressure, if you'll notice, you'll kind of see that it's building. It's not the strongest of ridges, but it's strong enough to really kind of give us those warmer temperatures that we'll see later in the week. And you can see that arc right here. Now, the ridge itself is not expected to really build directly over us. It'll stay off to our west, but that heat associated with that ridge of high pressure is going to extend into Northern California. Now, another thing I want to take note too is, although today not that bad, I do think that there will be, throughout the next several afternoons this week, more clouds moving in, especially in the afternoon for the higher elevations. You'll notice some of that May gray, if you will, working its way into parts of the north coast. So kind of off and on fog here and low clouds there. But otherwise, you can see, look at this Thursday. Now you'll notice not only do we have more clouds moving in through the afternoon hours later this week, but it is picking up on a little bit of shower activity. Could we see a stray shower here and there for some of the higher elevations, especially in the northern Sierra? Listen, it's not out of the question, but I wouldn't count on it. I wouldn't cancel any outdoor plans over it. We take a look at really the 24th through the 28th of this month, still in the drier than normal category. But if we were to extend this out even further, we would be more within the, right here, that gray area. This is where we're near normal. So yeah, I am still seeing some signs that near the end of this month that we may see some wet weather entering the picture here, but the forecast model has been kind of teeter-tottering on that one. Taking a look at the warmer than normal conditions, yes, it's certainly going to be warmer out there. So here's your overall setup. And this is that inside slider I was talking about here even last week. It's still in place, but what's happening is this. Take a look at these white lines. These are what we call isobars. When they're tightly packed, that's when the winds are the strongest. And you see low pressure to our east, high pressure, the heat, off to our west, and that squeeze play between the two gives us those gusty winds. Now, when these two begin to spread apart and the white lines begin to spread apart, we see the winds begin to subside. And you'll see that, but still a bit breezy, borderline windy Tuesday before those winds really died down by Wednesday and Thursday. But again, I was talking about that ridge of high pressure. Yes, it's building over the eastern Pacific, but not really building directly over us, but it is extending into Northern California. And I do expect the peak of that warming trend will be on Thursday. And then we've got some cooler air coming in from the north and west that's going to maybe squash that ridge of high pressure a little bit. But now we're kind of getting that time of the year that even though the ridge may not be terribly strong, it's still going to be rather warm out there. And you can see that on our 10-day trend. You see the peak will be around Thursday, and then temperatures leveling out in the mid-90s by the time we get to the end of next week, into that next weekend, and even into next week. And just kind of a fun reminder that the earliest Redding has seen 100 degrees or higher since the records have been taken in the late 1800s was May 4th, 1992, with a high right at 100 degrees. So we're not going to break that record this year. We still have that chance to break the 110 degrees or higher as we go into June. I don't think anybody wants to break that record. And the thing is, we're not even guaranteed to hit 100 degrees this week just yet. So, right, we haven't hit 100 degrees yet. All right, take a look at the lake levels. We're now reaching that point where all of the lakes in our area are seeing a drop over a 24-hour period. But you can see it's a very small drop, nothing to be terribly concerned about. And even though they are dropping, that is normal for this time of the year. Less snow melt, less in the way of rain, obviously. And the fact that we are seeing a very limited snowpack that we did see this year, we'll probably start to see these begin to drop even more. But that being said, we're still 100%, over 100% of that historical average. So the wave heights. All right, so the wave heights are going to pretty much stay status quo over the next several days. And as a result, the National Weather Service has issued a small craft advisory over the next several days, in fact, through Wednesday. Now, the wind is not that strong this morning, but they will pick up later this afternoon, and that's why I've got them out of the north at about 20 to 25 knots. Your neighborhood forecast, sponsored by Dignity Health and Grange Co-op. We've got your temperatures in the upper 70s to low 80s for your daytime. Generally upper 70s really is what we're looking at here. Now really across the board, we're seeing that warming trend, even for the coast. I think we're going to peak with that warming trend around Thursday, and then temperatures kind of level off after that. Taking a look at the inland areas, up to 92 Thursday, and then mid to upper 80s by the time we get into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Siskiyou County, you're looking at temperatures kind of peaking on Thursday in the mid 80s, low to mid 80s by Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Modoc County, also that peak on Thursday, really Thursday, Friday. In fact, once we get into Thursday, Friday, we just kind of level it out in the low 80s for those daytime highs. And the Eastern Mountains, kind of the same story here. We level out in the mid 80s by Thursday, Friday through the weekend. But today, not that bad. Temperature of about 67 degrees out in Susanville. And not that bad in the valley either, temperature-wise. You're talking mid 80s, although a bit warmer out towards Oroville, about 88. But places like Corning, about 85 and 81 degrees in Pasquinta. So your 7-day forecast for Chico, you see just dodging that triple-digit mark, a high of about 99. And, you know, if you remember that last heat wave we saw, the forecast models, even 4 or 5 days out, were still kind of pointing out possibly 100 degrees. So we may be shaving those down a bit. We'll see. But we potentially could see our first triple-digit reading for some of us in the valley by the time we get into Thursday, before temperatures kind of level off into the mid-90s by Friday and through the weekend, at least for the Redding area, for those daytime highs. So it is definitely getting a lot warmer out there eventually, but the winds are expected to die down as we get into really Tuesday, and especially going into your Wednesday as well. Looks like we got Rachel checking in this morning. She kind of chimed in as I was at the weather wall, if you will, saying a grand rising. Absolutely. It is a beautiful start to the day. And I want to thank everyone for checking in this morning and watching, and just kind of, you know, looking at the fact that, yes, the winds have been the biggest concern. Yesterday was not fun, was it? I mean, the winds are very strong really across the board. A friend of mine who works for the sheriff's office and has to kind of keep the public informed about what's going on with fires and all that, was a little concerned, and he texted me asking me about the winds, and let's get that little inside insight as far as what's going on with the winds. And as expected, the winds did eventually kind of subside a bit through the afternoon yesterday, but they were still very gusty. And then overnight, still gusty in some spots. But I do expect the winds to pick up again this morning and afternoon. But again, not as strong as they were yesterday. We're in that downward trend with the winds, but unfortunately more of that upward trend with the temperatures. All right, so we got a few more people checking in this morning, and let's see who we got here. That is Star Knight. Star Klinghardt saying good morning. And we got Robert Lopez saying, oh man, I am not looking forward to the heat. I don't think anybody is. But there are some people who actually really do enjoy that heat. I don't know. It just depends on who you are. But, you think about when we did see that last heat wave not too long ago, we got close to 100 degrees. There's a chance we could possibly see 100 degrees for the first time this year in some spots later on this week. So, yeah, fun, right? All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this morning. Let's see here. There we go. That's good. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. And, of course, keep in mind, noon and evening, we got meteorologist Aurora Murray. She'll be giving you the latest updates on the winds and this heat wave coming in. And I will be back again tomorrow, right here on Coffee with Krueger at 6:30, and of course your update that I usually upload sometime around 5 o'clock in the morning. In the meantime, I hope you have yourselves a great Monday, and we will see you all tomorrow.